Okay, good everyone. I'm delighted to have you back again for our special maths classes. In fact, it's just been so many work on the background. That's the reason we have not actually been delivering the maths lessons so far. But very interestingly, we are back on and very much raring to go. So I make very bold claims that we're going to be more consistent going forward. I'm delighted to also have you back. So many persons who have been calling in to find out the reason we haven't actually been pushing our maths lessons. We've been very, very busy behind the scenes to actually make this whole thing better. Now, what's it called? Social platforms are open, and we're all encouraged to still go back and continue what we are used to doing. So today we're going to be looking at a very interesting topic in maths, which is trigonometry. Trigonometry. This is a very important topic, which is also seen across junior secondary and senior secondary school. The scope of the lesson has been outlined below. We're going to take our time to handle all those details. The first thing there is the meaning of trigonometry. So we'll just get into it immediately. The meaning of trigonometry. The meaning of trigonometry. Now, this word was coined from two words, meaning trigonon and metry. Trigonon meaning triangle, while metry means measure. So basically, we are going to be discussing about triangles here. For the purpose of knowledge, we know we have different types of triangles. We have the classification of triangles based on sides. We have classification of triangles based on angles. If you talk about the classification of triangles based on sides, we have the equilateral triangle, the isosceles triangle, and the scalene. And then the ones that are based on angles are the acute angle triangle, the obtuse angle triangle, and the right angle triangle, of course. So 6 of them. But we are going to focus ourselves on the right angle triangle once we come down to this place. So basically, trigonometry is just talking about the study of triangles and the relationship between its sides and its angles. Now, don't forget that a triangle is a plane shape that has 3 sides and 3 angles. That's for knowledge sake anyway. So trigonometry, let's just take note of the meaning. Trigonometry is a branch of maths. It's a branch of maths. It's a branch of maths which studies triangles, and the relationship between its sides and the relationship between its sides and angles. So basically, this is exactly what trigonometry is all about. We're going to be studying about triangles and the relationship between the sides and the angles. That's all. So we go into the right angle triangle. The focus for this topic is going to be basically on the right angle triangle. Let's come over to this side. The focus for this study is going to be basically on the right angle triangle. So we'll take our time to describe what the right angle triangle is. Now, the word right was coined from the word upright. Remember, we already said that a triangle is made up of 3 sides. Now, how do we draw the right angle triangle? A right angle triangle, I'm going to try to illustrate, is usually drawn with 2 upright lines. Now, you see this line and this line, they are considered as upright. If I join a 3rd line, it makes it a triangle. So, whenever we draw a triangle with 2 upright lines, we say that that triangle is a right angle triangle. So, a perfect diagram or illustration of the right angle triangle is below. Now, take note. The point where those 2 upright lines meet usually make an angle we call 90 degrees. And it is because of this 90 degrees we call this special triangle a right angle triangle. So please take note. It could also take different forms. You must be able to establish the 2 upright lines and the point where 90 degrees is made. So this is exactly how to draw the right angle triangle. It's a special type of triangle. And these 2 lines, sometimes we usually call them perpendicular lines. Those 2 upright lines are called perpendicular lines. So we will go forward. We'll go forward and then talk about the parts of a right angle triangle. There are three parts, like we have there, of a right angle triangle. There are three parts of a right angle triangle. There are three parts of a right angle triangle. The first one is called the hypotenuse. The first one is called the hypotenuse. The second one is called the opposite, while the third one is called the adjacent. So we are going to consider the right angle triangle as we drew it there, and then we'll be able to identify those parts. Now, this is a right angle triangle. Take note. The hypotenuse, we call it the longest side of the right angle triangle. The longest side of the right angle triangle. So this is referred to as our hypotenuse. Now, the opposite and the adjacent is usually determined by the positioning of the angle. If our angle is assumed to be theta, now observe the side that is facing this angle directly. We call any side facing the angle directly the opposite. So opposite is side facing angle directly. Side facing angle directly. While the side that is very close to the angle, you can see that this side is very close to the angle, we call it the adjacent. Now, this is the very first fundamental knowledge you must establish, especially when you're discussing anything related to the right angle triangle. You must know these parts. So, if for instance, we change the position of this angle now, you see that this place becomes the opposite, while this other side becomes the adjacent. So, the opposite and the adjacent are not known if the angle is not defined. So once the angle is there, you'll be able to know the positioning of the opposite and the adjacent. So that's about that. Now, why do we study trigonometry? Why study trigonometry? Why do we study it? Simply put, there are two things or two reasons we study trigonometry. To find missing sides, and to find missing angles. These are the two major reasons we study trigonometry. But in today's class, we're going to round off with a part 1 with Pythagoras theorem. So you can guess what the next heading is going to be, talking about finding missing sides of a right angle triangle. Finding missing sides of a right angle triangle. Finding missing sides of a right angle triangle. Okay, there are two approaches in finding missing sides of a right angle triangle. The first one is the use of Pythagoras theorem, and that means that an examiner can just give you a question and ask you to find the missing side. Now, the Pythagoras theorem is used to find missing side of a right angle triangle only when two sides are given. Only when two sides are given. So, this is the case in which we usually use Pythagoras theorem. Take for instance, if I have this and I write here as 5, probably define this as my theta, write here as 4, and I ask you to find x. Now, this is a case in which we are allowed to use Pythagoras theorem to find a missing side. Now, what does Pythagoras theorem say? We're not going to pick so much grammar, we're just going into it mathematically. The Pythagoras theorem says that the square of the hypotenuse, remember that this is my hypotenuse, this is my opposite, and this is my adjacent. The square of this side is equal to the sum of the squares of the other side. So, Pythagoras says that hypotenuse square is equal to opposite square plus adjacent square. The hypotenuse square there, as we have, is your 5 square is equal to opposite square is 4 square plus the adjacent square is x, which is what we are looking for. The 5 square is 25. 4 square is 4 times 4, which will give you 16 plus x square. If you make x squared the subject, we're going to have 25 minus 16. X squared here is giving us 9. Then finding x, taking the square root of 9, answer here will be 3. So the side we are looking for here is 3. Please master the Pythagoras theorem and the condition in which it is used. It is only used when two sides are given. I will leave you with one more question to try at home using Pythagoras theorem. Please take note the common mistake many students always make. They always try to quote the side that is being looked for first. Pythagoras says the first side you're going to quote is always the hypotenuse. Please take note. So you can try this at home. I have here 6, 8, and x. Find x. Now you see that you're also going to use Pythagoras theorem. So on this note, we have come to the end of this class. We still have quite a number of things to do as well, as regards finding missing sides and missing angles. But within the scope of our lesson today, we're going to stop here. I know you enjoyed the class, so feel free, check us up on all our social platforms and then like, especially on YouTube, Facebook, and the likes. You're definitely going to enjoy the lessons. Thank you so much.